Hey, gentlemen, how you doing?
All right.
What's new and exciting?
It's Tuesday.
That's neither new nor exciting.
I assume that you're talking to Ryan because you said gentlemen. So.
Oh, kaboom.
This is the AT Banter podcast, a balanced and entertaining look at assistive technology, accessibility, and its importance in people's lives. Join Rob Minot, Ryan Fleury, and Steve Barclay as they banter with people around the world about anything and everything regarding assistive technology and the disability community. Now, on with the show.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of AT Banter.
Banter.
My name is Rob Minot. Joining me today, Mr. Steve Barclay.
Hola.
And Mr. Ryan Fleury.
I'm Ryan Fleury. All right, Scuffy, what's new and exciting?
Nothing.
Ryan, did you catch a little bit of the new Apple? What do they? I don't even know what they call it anymore.
WWDC.
WWDC, right. See, we're going to get hate mail from all the Apple fans out there. They're like, you guys covered Google I.O. and you talked about it and you wrote a blog post and you don't even know what the Apple event name is.
I know what it is.
Okay, so you go ahead. So,
WWDC. No, I didn't watch the event. I've been following people's tweets on the Twitters, and it really, to me, doesn't look like there was a lot of exciting announcements out there.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like there's some catching up that Apple is doing, but nothing really innovative that I saw.
You're definitely you're cruising for some hate mail.
I know. But if you're an iPhone user and you're excited about what's coming, let us know what's coming because maybe we'll talk about it.
Now, I did hear something about a Siri. What were they saying about Siri? It's not going to be updated
till 2019 or something.
Oof! Yikes! That kind of puts them behind. That puts them way behind.
Yeah,
Siri's already behind, and that kind of.
Yeah, they're not going to catch up to the Amazon or the Google Assistant anytime soon.
They might be just better off and maybe this is what they're doing. Maybe this is why there's going to be no updates till 2019. Maybe they're just going to put their energies into somewhere where they can actually get out in front. They kind of know that they've kind of lost the race to Google and Amazon, and they're just being like, we're gonna put our efforts into something else. Obviously, keep working on Siri, but it doesn't sound like it's a priority for them.
Well, and one of the things I heard is that there wasn't a lot of mention of accessibility in their keynote. So, again, I'm going to put this out to our audience. If you felt that there was or wasn't enough mentioned about accessibility, let us know, and we will try to get somebody on the show, maybe from AppleVis again, to talk about what was mentioned and what's coming this fall.
Actually, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea. Maybe we should talk to the AppleVis guys.
Apparently, there have been some improvements to Siri. They announced that they're including a new shortcuts feature and an app based on Apple's workflow acquisition, whatever that means.
Yeah, that none of those words together mean anything to me.
Yeah. In terms of hardware, about the only thing that they announced in terms of hardware were new bands for the Apple Watch and some new cases for the iPhone. But hardware-wise, it was pretty bleak.
Yeah, no new MacBooks, I don't think. No new Apple TVs.
Well, it could be that they've just kind of plateaued, right? Like you can only have so many, huge.
There hasn't been a new Mac Mini since like 2013 or something.
Advancements.
No new iPads.
Well, there's they announced tvOS 12 for Apple TV.
Yeah, which I think supports Dolby Atmos.
Coming in the summer. They're doing a Mac OS update to Mojave.
Yeah, and Macs you're going to be able to start running iOS apps on.
And somebody very aptly pointed out that Apple is naming their OSs after deserts, and Google is naming their OSs after desserts.
Oh, damn. That's hilarious. That is too funny.
Huh.
Interesting. Oh, that's got to be on purpose, right?
Well, Android or Google's been doing it since gingerbread. What was before gingerbread? So, desserts, and then Apple. I don't know what their first
because there was Safari, because it was what was OX and Safari. Wasn't there Tiger? That's
right. There was Tiger, Leopard, Lion, and then they've gone to High Sierra, Mojave. Yeah.
Interesting. So it sounds like
Google.
Apple's. Yeah, it sounds like Apple's kind of throwing some shade down at Google.
They have a dry sense of humor.
Oh.
Anything else that you noticed news-wise?
Well, we had that woman's house attacked by a beaver in Nanaimo.
That's fantastic. Love it.
Royal Canadian Mounted Police responding to a beaver chewing on somebody's house.
Now I got to include that news story in the show notes.
Yes, you do.
For context, because it's true. It's a true story.
Yep.
I remember a few years back in the province, front page of the province, our local newspaper here, where the front page story was about a skunk in Stanley Park, which is our big local park. And there was apparently just a runaway, not a runaway skunk, but just a skunk that was terrorizing people. And I thought, I enjoy living in a city where that makes the front page.
I remember one time I used to live down the West End, which is right beside Stanley Park. And I was walking along and I saw this fire truck pull up to a building and this fireman, he's looking up at the building and he's walking towards the building. What he wasn't noticing was that there was a skunk halfway between him and the building.
Oh, no.
And when I pointed it out to him, he did this little dance. It was very funny. It's the, oh my God, there's a skunk in front of me dance, where you do these wild dance moves and that make you end up about 20 feet further back than where you started. It was pretty funny.
Well, hey, Ryan.
Yes, sir.
Hey, what are we up to today?
Today we are talking with Kirsten Sutton, Managing Director of SAP Labs Canada.
Really? What are we talking to her for?
Well, she's a member of a group called the President's Group, which is a, what would you say they are, Rob?
They are an organization of business leaders who help make the business case for hiring people with disabilities to other companies. They reach out and they help people who are looking for employment and employers to help them get set up.
So kind of best practices kind of thing.
That's correct.
Cool.
And I think a lot of it is education. I mean, they're I think their mandate is really to educate other businesses to let them know that, hey, hiring people with disabilities is actually not only, a good idea, but it makes really good business sense. So also on the show, as if that isn't enough, we are also talking, Ryan, to
Len Baker, who is Vice President of Partnerships and Innovations at the CNIB.
Yeah, we reached out to these guys, after their Global Accessibility Day announcement that they were partnering with Aira and BlindSquare and Key to Access, I believe is the name of the other. So we thought we'd reach out to them and see if we could get somebody on to talk a little bit about what those partnerships mean and what it means for the CNIB going forward. So we're also going to be talking to him a little bit later.
Hi, Ryan.
Hi, Kirsten. How are you?
I'm good. Just sorry, taking me a minute here.
No worries.
Well, listen, we want to thank you so much for taking some time out and joining us today. We've actually been sort of anxious to get somebody from the organization for a while. So thanks so much.
Glad to be here.
So why don't we start with just giving us a little bit of an overview of what President's Group does?
Sure. So the President's Group is a group of business leaders who have gotten together thanks to the Ministry of Social Development and it's poverty and social development. They keep changing the ministries.
Not the government.
Yes, they do. And so they've gotten us together to really help to advise the government on policies and strategies that they're employing when it comes to accessibility. And we are here to help meet that accessibility 2024 goals that were set, really making the province the best place for people with disabilities.
So what are some of the things that you do with businesses in order to sort of bring sort of the business case forward for say hiring people with access challenges?
So what we've done is the members of the President's Group, there's anywhere between 20 and 25 at any given time. We're different sizes of businesses, small and large. And we're looking at trying to help other companies by sharing our experiences and how we have worked with people with disabilities, hired people with disabilities, and creating accessible environments in our offices. So really our main focus of what we do is sharing our stories and helping others to follow the same path.
So what's sort of the main thing that you guys find that you need to educate businesses about?
So we're looking at the fact that there is misunderstandings with what does it take to accommodate people with disabilities, and people have assumptions on what that looks like. That we can help dispel some of those rumors and myths and actually really share the information on what it takes. I think there's some fear that we talk through with people. They don't want to make a mistake. Disabilities aren't always visible, and so perhaps there's things that they're not sure how to handle. Even just the language that should be used when talking with people with different disabilities. I think we work with people also on the business case. They're wondering, well, why do we need to do this? There's many people out there, and we didn't have, what's the business case for why we should hire people with disabilities? And so we go through quite a bit of information with them on why each of us chose to do this and why there is a business rationale. Because if there's no business rationale and it's simply, a good thing to do, businesses may not take that step that they need to. And last but not least, there's definitely a lot of details that we can share. And many of the businesses have approached different avenues for hiring people with disabilities. At SAP, we're very focused on our program called Autism at Work. So we have a lot of great information on how could you source, hire, retain, and support individuals who are on the autism spectrum.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about accessibility and inclusivity in the past few years. Do you find that's having an effect for you guys? Like, do you find it's a little bit easier these days to make this the business case?
Yeah, I think there's two things. I think, yes, it's definitely more present in our culture these days, right? That we want to make sure that we're creating inclusive cultures. There's really great reasons for that. Everything from the ability to innovate requires diversity of thought and skills and people, all the way through to there is a war for talent. Right? It's getting harder and harder in all of our businesses to hire. We're kind of running out of people. And what's really sad is how many people there are with disabilities right now who are unemployed or underemployed. And so between these two different aspects of it being really prominent in the culture and there being a real, war for talent, we're finding a lot of people are coming forward. I spend a tremendous amount of time speaking to people about our experiences because they really feel the need to make a move in this direction.
What kind of accommodations did you put in place to support your employees with autism?
This is one of the big myths for everyone out there to hear, is that it is not a tremendous amount of accommodation required. So when it comes to the physical space of the building, certainly we've had to ensure that there were quiet spaces for our program members to be able to, sit and sort of wind down and if they need to and have some quiet space. There's also the need to have at their work area the ability to be quite to turn off many of the noises. So whether that's through headphones or different devices. But to be honest, these are things that we provide for all of our employees. So we do have nap rooms and mindfulness rooms and wellness rooms and yoga mats and a gym and many different places for people to sit and unwind, irrespective of whether they're on the spectrum or not. So these are things that we already had in our office and available to people. The biggest thing from an accommodation standpoint was a job coach, someone that would remain with the individuals once they were on the team, to stay by their side and help them with some of the things to adjust inside of a large company working environment. And so that, I think, was the biggest quote unquote accommodation, meaning that it was something we didn't have in place already, and certainly something that had an additional cost for the organization. So those were the two main things that we've done.
One of the questions I have, as someone who was unemployed for almost a year, going through a government agency to find a job, they really weren't very helpful. So how does somebody with a disability find employers who are actually looking for or hiring persons with disabilities?
That's a great question. So this is something that has been identified as we've been together on the President's Group over the past few years. Not only is it hard for employers to find individuals, it's hard both ways, right? There are too many organizations, they're very fragmented. And so what we're trying to do with the accessibleemployers.ca site is trying to work first with the employers. But our goal is to extend this out so that we will have the ability to have matching programs and have individuals with disabilities find the employers rather than simply the other way around. So we're trying to pull everything together and try to help people navigate through this. It's definitely difficult. There's no solution right today. Mm-hmm. What I would say is anybody who's out there, look for the organizations that support whatever barriers you're facing, whether that's a physical barrier or autism. There are many organizations. Get connected into those right now. Pick one, get connected into it. That's how we find our individuals for our organization. So we would go, say, to the Pacific Family Autism Network and ask them and say, okay, can you help us with the recruiting process? And so if you're connected into that organization, the employers will find you. Right. So that's the best thing to do right now. Long term, we want to have a really much more conducive matching program that doesn't require so much relationship building.
When a business comes to you and is, say, interested in hiring somebody with a disability, how do you sort of guide them? Do you sort of take them through the entire process, and do you consult on things like the assistive technology that the business may need to bring in to support that person, or how does it all work?
Sure. So on the President's Group, for each one of us, we have had experience, maybe not with all aspects of accessibility and accessible hiring. So depending on what the organization is looking for, they may talk to one or more of us to get some information, right? But when I've spoken to people, if they're interested in hiring people on the autism spectrum, we talk about the entire gamut of what we've done. We share what we learned. We share the mistakes that we've made. We share really the tips and tricks on what were the key success criteria. And then we share, of course, our connections that we have to different social partners, and so that we can help them take that next step. We're very proud to have shared our program with quite a few companies who have now gone ahead and followed our path, but they will probably have to apply it differently. We're a certain size company with certain types of processes and people in place, and every company is different, right? So you'll have to look at your hiring process and see what you might need to change. You might have to look at your compensation and see what you might need to change, or your physical space and what you might need to change. But we help give all those tips by sharing our experience and our connections.
Who else is on this advisory board?
So there are 25 different organizations. So we have YVR, Van City, BCAA, BCLC, BC Hydro, BC Tech Association, BILO. Do you want me to read them all? Because I will.
so some pretty...
Plaza, Absolute Spa, Destination BC, EY, Fairwear, Gabby and Jules, HSBC, ICBC, Leadcorn, NPR, Pacific Blue Cross, the Research Universities Council of BC, Port of Vancouver, SAP Labs Canada, Save On Meats, TELUS, and Watson.
Wow.
In alphabetical order, even.
Yeah. Thank you to accessibleemployers.ca.
She hasn't memorized all of them.
I did. No.
So if an employer came to you guys and you suggested, an organization, whether it's the Pacific Family Autism Network, and they had a person in mind that would probably fit a job description, does that employer then go out to the community and find somebody to do like a workplace assessment, or do you guys do that?
To see if your workplace is ready?
Yeah. And what type of technology or equipment might be involved or required?
Yeah, so what we would advise if somebody was coming to us on this is two things. One is to partner with that organization. That organization can help you with your site readiness. And so they would offer, should you talk to perhaps others inside of the Pacific Family Autism Network, or should you be talking with Squire Society or others where you can get assistance directly, they would help you with that. The key success criteria we tell everyone is that this is not something you can do on your own. I mean, we are not experts on autism. We didn't know anything about it, really. There are many individuals here who have family members or children on the autism spectrum, but that doesn't make us experts even in the business context, right? And so first key thing you have to do is get a partner who is an expert. Then they can help you with all of those things. So they will let you know and tell you whether you should have a separate assessment, or they will come and see and work with you. We had people support us all the way through our journey, and still to this day help us with the job coaches and the recruiting of our employees.
So really, it's kind of like you guys are kind of the center of a hub where, people can come to you, and then you will direct the rest of it through, different partners, strategic partners, and get a person, employed with the right person, get the right equipment, all through a big network, if I'm understanding it correctly.
Exactly. I think hub is a great way to say it. We like to make sure that we have as much information, share our stories, but connect people so that they can carry on their journey on their own. So the way the website is set up, which is really, I think, an easy way to take a look at it, if you're a big business or a small business, so less than 100 employees or more than 100 employees, you can see stories that relate to your size and scale of business, and certainly different stories on whether it's on wheelchair accessibility or hiring people with physical disabilities, or the different programs that all the companies have run. So you go in here, you say to yourself, I'm big or small from a size perspective, and I'm interested in this type of hiring, and then you can just go from there. You also might be someone who's never looked at this before and is just getting started, someone who's really in the throes of it and really trying to build momentum, or you could be really fully engaged and want to do more. You may want to get out there and actually be giving back at this point, because you've got to a stage where you have some great lessons and learnings to share.
And do you find that making the business case for hiring people with disabilities is a pretty easy sell for most companies? Because I mean, really, it should be, because it's the numbers speak volumes. Do you find that's kind of the easy part?
I think that's become much, much easier. As we said before, I mean, it's very, it's within the consciousness of everyone that we live in a world where technology assists anyone to work from anywhere with all sorts of skill levels and abilities. And so what's the reason not to? A lot of the things that might have been considered barriers before have been eliminated thanks to technology. And certainly, as I said, there's a war for talent. Everybody's having trouble hiring. And Vancouver is so popular and so awesome that everybody wants to stay and live here. And I hear a lot of people talk about, immigration has to bring in people because we can't hire. And I'm always frustrated with that, I have to say. Like, if you just hired the people who are sitting right here in this province, who are underemployed or unemployed, who are perfectly capable, and in fact could be some of the best employees you've ever had, we wouldn't have an issue with hiring. We would not have a war for talent.
Yeah, it's true enough. Between two different companies, I've worked with a lot of people with visual impairments and blindness, and typically our employees who were visually impaired and blind were our rock stars, and in one case is our rock star.
Who's that?
That's you, Ryan.
Me?
You've got 2 songs recorded. You're a rock star.
All right, woo! I'm a rock
Wow,
star.
rock star in our midst.
I'm number one. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, but he's a one-hit wonder. Let's be honest.
That's the name of my next.
Can you sing it for us? Now I'm really dying to hear.
WhiteCaneRecords.com.
Really? I'm looking it up right now.
I know. It's all gone to his head. We didn't give you permission to plug that.
You're in my basement. Anything goes.
So for you guys, for President's Group itself, what is your biggest challenge? Is it sort of spreading the word and getting the word out there to other businesses? Is that kind of where you guys focus most of your energies?
Oh, it's a great. We started out. I think our biggest challenge was figuring out how could we have an impact. We very much want to make sure that we are making a great environment for people with disabilities to get gainful employment, right? They tell us, the stats are crazy, right? That there's all these job openings, 1 million job openings ready, and that there's 334,000 British Columbians that have a disability. And so that's a third of those job openings that can be filled. And so we felt it was a bit overwhelming to figure out what can we actually do. So we landed on creating accessibleemployers.ca. And our goal here was to really get the conversation started and then keep the movement going. So we're literally, in different forums throwing down the gauntlet saying, okay, this is what we're doing. Why aren't you? Right? It's time, right? And this is something that needs to be done, and your business will benefit from it. So we've slowly but surely ended up here with a great site, I think, that helps tell that story, but it's still hard right now to get people to the site, right, to start that journey. I think once you get there, it's very easy to navigate, depending on where you're at in your journey and what you're looking to do. I think that you would be able to find what you need. But it's hard still to get people to this forum and get that conversation going and get them moving. So I would say the hardest part was figuring out what to do. I think we came up with something great. Now we just got to get people to make sure they go there and start their journey.
And maybe you can answer this, maybe you can't. But a lot of people with disabilities, when looking for a job, myself included, look at job qualifications and just go down the list going, I'm not qualified, not qualified, not qualified, not qualified, don't have the skills, don't have the degrees, diplomas, whatever. Do you find employers are willing to do on-the-job training, even if you have some transferable skills? Maybe you don't have the degree or the diploma?
Yeah, I think that businesses, certainly in the technology industry, we've changed quite a bit on how we do job descriptions, and certainly through the Autism at Work program, we've definitely changed our expectations. We used to create job descriptions that were the kitchen sink. If you could do all that and, make French fries for dinner, we loved you, right? And so really, we don't do that anymore. We really talk more about the environment that you'll be working in and the expectations of an employee and what we provide as an employer. And so I do think that job descriptions are changing. I do think that's something that many of us have looked at. There's a lot of implicit bias in there and unconscious bias in there against all sorts of folks that they wouldn't want to look at these jobs for the same reasons you said. So job descriptions alone are something that we work on very carefully. And I would say that many of the businesses here in the President's Group have changed their hiring processes, starting with the job postings.
Yay! About time.
Oh, shut up and go! Shut up and get a degree, Ryan.
I got a certificate.
It's a rock star. He doesn't need a degree. I think Steve Tyler has a degree.
He probably does.
Well, I think Brian May, isn't he an astrophysicist?
Something like that.
Yeah. Anyways,
Sting was a professor, English professor, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, see, there you go, Ryan. You better get a degree. Need something to fall back on after your one hit.
That's right.
President's Group is sort of made up of a variety of different business leaders here in the Lower Mainland. What kind of brought you into it yourself, with you and your company? How did you sort of enter the field of advocacy for people with disabilities in this way?
So our entry into the President's Group was with the SAP's global program for autism at work. We had, in 2014, the exact same year the President's Group started, we made a global commitment to hire 1% of our workforce at the time to be individuals on the autism spectrum. So that translates into 650 individuals globally. Right. And Canada put our hand up, as we always do, to be a pilot location, certainly with our social systems here and the amazing people and inclusive culture we have in Canada. We thought, we're going to do this. We should be on the forefront of this. And so we're in the 5th wave of hiring. And when the President's Group, a few of the folks on there I've known through the business community heard about what SAP was doing, they asked us to come and present what we were doing. And after we finished presenting, of course, we were then, oh, you have to be part of the group, and now you have to be, you can see how that goes, right? Whenever you put your hand up, you become the spokesperson. But as we've been learning about this, we really feel compelled to share with everyone. It has been wildly successful with many mistakes that we've made. And so the more we can share with people, we prefer to do that. So it made us a pretty strong advocate. We've gone so far as to get the Rick Hansen Foundation certification for accessible workplace. So we now just got gold certified, first business. We're very proud of that. And so now we feel like we're really taking this by storm. This really matters to us as a culture, as a business. And we really want to be out in front, trying to bring others along with us.
We should talk a little bit about how people can sort of contact President's Group or work with you, whether they're businesses or even if they're individuals.
So absolutely, the website is your first point of contact. It's accessibleemployers.ca. From there, you can peruse the main points of a business case, who we are as the President's Group, a lot of stories and case studies that we have, different resources. And then this is where you can contact the team and be able to connect directly with one of our consultants. And they will help to make whatever connection it is that you need to make that you didn't find here on accessibleemployers.ca. We do offer accessibility and inclusion training. So there's different events and things that you can be a part of. So accessibleemployers.ca, that's where you'll find us, and that's where you can get connected for further information. I would recommend take a look at the business case that's on the front page when you get to Accessible Employers. Mm-hmm. There's some really great information if you're not convinced yet, but that talks about the productivity research has shown with inclusive workplaces and how you're 2 times more likely to exceed your financial targets, 6 times more likely to be innovative and effectively anticipate change. I mean, these are pretty strong numbers to really back up why you want to be considering hiring people with disabilities. There's so many great benefits, and it talks about employees being, there's 72% more staff retention when you have a diverse and inclusive workplace, that 86% of attendance or average or better with employees with disabilities, and 90% performance was equal to or better than coworkers without disabilities. What we've seen here at SAP is when we brought our first cohort in, people on the team were like, whoa, we're going to have to up our game because these employees are killing it. They were finding bugs in the software that were 15 years old, that their colleagues who'd been here forever, who thought they knew everything, didn't even notice. So I think that the benefits here are pretty clear. It's right out here for you. If you haven't and aren't considering hiring people with disabilities, the time is now.
Well, a full third of my workforce is a person with a disability. So, but he's currently trying to get the hell out and get into SAP by the sounds of it.
Resume on the way. Got to polish off that resume.
Well,
SAP.com/careers. No.
All right.
Just shush. You just shush.
I don't know, Ryan. That means you have to increase productivity by 6 times.
I know.
So you better
Pressure's on.
No naps for you.
That's true.
I'm going to guess you can be 6 times more innovative for sure, just from this few short time we've spent together.
Maybe.
Oh, dear. Yeah, I mean, part of the reason why we were so anxious to have you on, and we just came across the President's Group site, I think just kind of by chance. Our Twitter, we keep our Twitter feed, sort of full of like-minded accessibility companies and manufacturers and individuals. So we kind of came across you guys, and it wasn't long after sort of diving into the website that we realized that, yeah, I mean, you guys are doing really important work, and we can make the country such a better place if we can really get some traction behind this and start employing this like you said, this underserved base of people. So hats off to you guys.
Oh, well, thank you. And I couldn't agree more. The time is now. It's enough talk. Let's do it. Right.
Well,
so I'm glad you found us, and now you see sort of our dilemma, right? How do we make sure that more people see this? And again, it's about, continuing the momentum. It's not about showcasing our organizations. It's about getting others to see the light and join us.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and having, the three of us have all worked in the assistive technology field for quite a long time. And, what I think surprises people who are outside of that is that this assistive technology exists. And not only that, it's so good that there aren't really any barriers that assistive technology can't overcome for the most part.
100%. It's amazing. Of course, SAP banks on the idea that technology is ubiquitous and can change the world and have an impact. But this is your best example of it. There is literally now no barrier that I can see that can't be overcome with technology.
All right, Kirsten, we'd like to really thank you for taking the time out and talking with us today. And as Ryan said, we'll be in touch, and we'll have you on again for sure.
Well, it was really fantastic meeting you all, and you have all unbelievable radio voices. It's definitely your calling.
Well, that's good.
I was thinking to myself, these are great radio voices.
Good, because we definitely have the faces to match that. So. That's perfect.
It was great meeting you all. I really enjoyed it, and looking forward to another chat.
Sounds good.
Great.
Thanks, Kirsten.
All right. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
No, it's cool. It's nice to hear that employers are getting together and sharing their experiences and getting a bit of a community together of like-minded employers who are not balking at the idea of hiring people with disabilities out of some fear-based reactionary thing.
Well, I think that it's really, I've never heard it explained quite like that. I feel like in the past, a lot of times companies who looked into, employing people with disabilities, there was usually some sort of how to put this, not cynically, but there was some sort of a benefit to the company in terms of maybe it was a subsidy or maybe it was, I don't even know what other benefits, but.
Well, I think Kirsten makes a really good point. They've got that document on their site that talks about the benefits of it. And, through the years of dealing with, people in employment situations, we know there's benefits. I mean, one of the biggest ones for an employer is simply retention. Mm-hmm. And, that in itself to an employer is an important aspect of hiring. You want somebody who's going to stick around because you don't want to spend a whole lot of time training somebody only to have them go, run off and work for SAP, for example, Ryan. But
Yeah, you're right.
I remember years ago, UPS was hiring people with visual impairments in their call centers because of that very fact. They had huge turnover in their call centers, but they found that people with visual impairments tended to stick around. Now, the sad part of that is that the reason they tend to stick around is because it's really damn difficult to get hired.
Yeah, yeah.
So, it's if you can build enough competition for those people in the workplace, then they'll probably be just as mobile as anybody else. But we're a long way from that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it has to do with education as well. Like, we were just talking about there at the end, a lot of employers, a lot of people in general don't know the scope of assistive technology that's out there, and that somebody who's, say, visually impaired can operate a computer, just as well, if not even better sometimes, than somebody with sight with things like screen readers. I mean, a lot of people that's not common knowledge that those things exist. So, a lot of employers will probably just look at a position and be like, well, no, a blind person couldn't do this job in the first place. And so they never really even go that route. So, in a lot of ways, I think that as the assistive technology conversations grow and more people are educated on just what's out there and what isn't necessarily a barrier for people with disabilities, that, organizations like this can get some traction and really get some interest going in the business case for hiring.
Well, and I hope too that it's key people at these companies that are doing the hiring. Like, it's not going to be the CEO who is actually being educated on hiring someone with disabilities. Maybe it's going to be the person who's doing the interview. Because how many times has somebody with a disability gone in, done the interview, that was it, never got a call back? They've never gotten past the interview process. And it may not have anything to do with their qualification, their skills. The company may just see dollar signs. What's it going to cost me? Right? I think they need to have key people in place that are knowledgeable about what is available out there, or have the ability to find the resources, the information needed on, assistive technology devices, resources, and so on, so that they can make an educated decision when it does come time to hire.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems to me that they're also doing this perfectly, because the organization itself is made up of all these business leaders that are highly successful. Like all the companies that she mentioned, they're all like large, successful companies, and they're setting the example for everybody else. And those are the people that the small, medium, and even large companies are going to look to and go, wow, okay, well, this strategy is clearly working for these guys. Let's try it out. So, in a lot of ways, they've got a lot going for them in that sense. Okay, well, let's go ahead and bring on Mr. Len Baker from the CNIB.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Len Baker here.
So joining us in the room, I have Steve Barclay.
Hello there.
Hey, Steve.
And Rob Minot.
Hello.
Hey, Rob.
And again, thank you so much for making time for us.
Rob.
Ryan, Steve, and Rob. Yep. 2
R's and an S.
Sounds like the forwards for the Bruins.
Either that or either that or the world's worst barbershop quartet. For obvious reasons, because we can't count.
Nice. This is going to be fun. Okay.
Yeah. So I guess what we wanted to sort of talk to you about and to get a little bit of clarification on, I understand last week you guys made a couple of announcements about some new partnerships, and we were hoping to just have you on and maybe talk a little bit about each of those.
Certainly, and I'll just quickly introduce myself. I'm the Vice President for Partnerships and Innovation, a newly created role at the CNIB. I've been around the organization 25 years here in Canada, and really excited about this new opportunity to look at how we can partner with tech innovators, like the 3 organizations that we're partnering with in Canada as announced on Global Accessibility Awareness Day. and also, other organizations, individuals, companies who kind of share a vision for the future, where we're working to break down barriers for employment for people who are blind or partially sighted. We're helping to enhance education outcomes for students by complementing the programs that are available in the school system, and really looking to make our communities more accessible. And there's no greater tool available to us to be able to do that in our age than what technology offers. And as you mentioned, in May on the 17th, we announced 3 partnerships as a starting point of CNIB's new strategic plan called Bold Dreams, Bright Futures, which focuses on those areas I just mentioned. Aira is a really interesting device that connects individuals with an agent, a trained agent on the other end of the line. You can connect either directly through an iOS or Android app on your smartphone, or through a specially designed pair of glasses, head-mounted device that has a camera built into it. And so the person actually has a kind of a subscription with Aira. They can purchase minutes per month or have unlimited minutes. And in return, you are able to connect with somebody who can help guide you through the community, assist you at work, assist you in school, around the house. It's really kind of like if you're familiar with OnStar in a lot of the Chevrolet products, where you can connect with an agent who will help guide you. Well, this was kind of the idea, I believe, when Suman and his brother came up with the idea for Aira, was that we could really come up with a way of providing sighted guide or sighted guidance or assistance to people who are blind or partially sighted, basically by a flick of or a tap on the screen of your iPhone. Its application is very broad. I think a lot of people initially think about Aira in terms of mobility and navigation, but it can do a whole lot more. And it can be very meaningful for somebody who's blind or partially sighted in the workforce or in a school setting, to be able to have somebody that they can tap into to say, there's something just went up on the board at the meeting. Can you tell me what's there? Or I'm going into a meeting. Can you give me the layout of the boardroom or the meeting room? Who's there? Can you assist me as I'm making my way to the building? Should you encounter some mobility difficulties or obstacles in your way? So it's kind of an asset, an additional tool, right, one of many that people who are blind or partially sighted may want to rely on. It doesn't replace sound and capable orientation mobility skills or techniques, but it can assist a person in making more information available to them than maybe previously it would have been difficult to access. So that's the Aira app. Do you want me to go on with the other 2?
Well, maybe you can just tell us, if somebody wants to get on board with Aira in Canada now, how should they go about it?
Great point. Yeah, so to access Aira now, an individual can either contact their local CNIB office. We are in the process now of actually having some of our office locations set up for Aira access. And that's another important component to the service that I didn't mention off the top, is that not only can individuals purchase and have the subscription to be able to use Aira, but organizations, municipalities, events can create what's called an Aira access. And so for a fee, they can create a geofence around an event or an activity. So it could be a museum, it could be a sports event, whereby enabling anybody to be able to download the Aira app for free and avail of an agent and the help that agent can provide while they're there during that event.
Right. Yeah.
So
there's a few, I think, airports in the States that have sort of done something similar.
Absolutely. Yeah. Airports. I know they did something really cool at the Boston Marathon earlier in the year. The Super Bowl. It's a really innovative way of, again, just creating a different type of an event or experience for somebody to be able to tap in to an agent to assist them get further information about something they may not really, be able to access otherwise.
So are your subscription plans the same as they are in the U.S.?
Yes. So it's the same subscription. In fact, they're in U.S. dollars. So we have some of the issues in Canada with the fluctuation in the currency. We're working to stabilize that to make it easier for people not to have to worry about that fluctuation in currency. But yeah, there's a cost.
Right.
Okay, sure. Well, why don't we talk a little bit about BlindSquare?
Okay, so BlindSquare is obviously many listeners will be aware of it as in terms of the GPS capability that it has to help with outdoor navigation in terms of wayfinding and finding points of interest. But what they've also been doing is working on using a beacon technology to assist with indoor navigation. Here in Toronto, at our newly created hub space downtown, we have engaged the local business community to put beacons inside of their stores to enable a pedestrian who has downloaded the BlindSquare app to be able to pick up information on the other side of the door. So whereas GPS really helps you get down the sidewalk, when you open the door and go inside, the GPS stops working, and that's where the beacons kick in. And so a beacon inside the store will, let you know the name of the store that you just entered. It'll give you some navigation tips, like, the lineup is on the right. It could even include some of the specials of the day or anything like that would be of interest to the customer coming in. So we're partnering with BlindSquare to be the distributor for that indoor navigation assistance in Canada, working with community for people to better understand how beacons could assist somebody with indoor navigation, to deploy those beacons in locations, including the 50 office locations we have at the CNIB in Canada and in the area surrounding our buildings. To make sure that we are as accessible for everybody who comes to visit us as we can be. So it's a really exciting opportunity to look at how we can again complement the mobility skills that individuals have by using beacons as a way of furthering the information that's available to them, provide enhanced mobility assistance to individuals. And then the final device that we launched on May 17th is a Ottawa, Ontario company called Key to Access, who've developed an application that will allow you to trigger a pedestrian crossing without actually having to go up to the pole and find the button and push the button. If there's a piece of technology mounted on the signal lights in the community, the app can connect to that and thereby signal the lights without an individual actually having to get up to the light pole. And in Canada, in the middle of the winter, that could be really handy, where you may otherwise have to maybe climb over a snowbank to get up to the light pole to trigger it. So those types of technology, Aira, BlindSquare, Key to Access, we were really kind of focusing on starting the conversation about unleashing the power of technology around mobility and navigation. And I think that those are three very interesting examples of technologies designed primarily to provide additional information for wayfinding, and then also, in a broader application, benefiting our ambitions around enhancing opportunities at work and opportunities in school for people as well.
So is the CNIB's role in this sort of as acting as sort of advocates, interfacing sort of with the community to encourage them to embrace this technology and put it in their different stores or malls, so that and then the flip side of that, and then are you guys incorporating that technology into, say, your O&M training to sort of get the users to embrace it at the same time?
Absolutely. Yes, to both questions. So, because of our brand and because we are so well known across the country, organizations, municipalities, governments interested in enhancing accessibility often turn to CNIB for information and guidance on that. So it's really helpful for us to have these types of partnerships where we can direct people towards some of the solutions back to the system in making their space more accessible. And ultimately, our goal is to unleash the power of technology, meaning we want more technology in the hands of Canadians to serve their needs, that allow them to get on with the things that they want to do. We want to make sure that those products are as affordable as possible for individuals. So what can we do to break down the cost? And ultimately for people to be able to use them effectively. And for that to happen, our staff who are out in the field need to have access to those devices, and they need to know how to use them well to be able to incorporate them into their programs, as you mentioned. So yes, we envision not only with our current rehabilitation and community-based programs, but also with our new guide dog program, and ensuring that people who participate in our guide dog program, which we launched last year, will also have these types of devices. They'll know about them. It'll be up to them whether they choose to use them or not, but they'll certainly be aware of them, and they can consider how any of those devices or technologies can assist them with their mobility.
Now, was there sort of a strategy? Because it seems to me, looking at these three, I mean, they're all sort of centered around mobility.
Yeah.
Was that sort of on purpose in terms of the first rollout?
Exactly. Yes. Because there are so many opportunities for our organization when we look at the future around success in the workplace,
right?
Success in school, success in the communities. So we kind of envision that as we're going out with these announcements and partnership opportunities, we're kind of bundling them together around some of these themes. In fact, indeed, what we've done in May was kind of a pre-launch to kind of set up the launch of our next strat plan in September. So all of these things now are kind of leading up to us doing this, more formal celebration of our next 100 years as an organization in Canada, culminating in Ottawa in September as we embark on our next 100-year journey. And this piece of work that we just accomplished in May was to set the stage around unleashing the power of technology with a focus on communities. We'll also be doing, a focus on employment and talking about some key strategies there that we feel will enhance opportunities for employment for people, and then around, education and some of the things we want to do with educators and school boards and departments of education in Canada to create opportunities for greater success in school. And then, coming full circle kind of back to communities and advocating and really keeping our ear to the ground when it comes to, who's out there in terms of developing what's the next innovation that's coming down the pipe. How can we tap into things like AI and other types of emerging technology that could really be game changers for people. And then so we're not overwhelming people. How do we kind of bundle these together so it kind of makes sense when we take these new opportunities out to the community, so that people come along on the ride with us and understand what it is we're trying to accomplish.
Robot guide dogs. That's all I got to say.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what kind of events, how are you guys rolling this stuff out to the end users? Are you guys sort of having demos of all this technology within local CNIBs, or just how is it all working?
Yeah, so that's where we're getting to. So as I mentioned, we're still working behind the scenes. We're like the duck in the water. The feet are going madly underneath, and it looks kind of smooth on top. We've got September in our sights is when we're launching all of this. So between now and then, there's work that we're doing in terms of, getting the technology out to our office locations, the training of our staff that's happening, the deployment of the activities and the initiatives. We had a lot of things kind of in the pipeline with BlindSquare that we're now starting to move forward on. Certainly, we want to have a lot of leadership within the organization to look at the business component of things like Aira, and going out and proudly talking about how, this type of technology can really change the experience for people who are blind or partially sighted in communities. So we're really at this point at the building phase.
Okay.
And come September, we will do our more formal launch. We'll have all the right players and the technology and everything in place. And it'll be a real celebration starting right across the country after that September announcement.
So if anybody out there does want a little bit more information, say on the initiative and what you guys are actually doing, is it just best for them to contact their local CNIB or contact head office?
No, by all means. We want people to contact their local office. They can best advise people as to where we are with the deployment of these new technologies in their region. They can reach out on the person's behalf to us if there are things that we're still working on. But the relationship is local, and these devices are meant to support people in the communities where they live, and it's important that they're connected to their local CNIB office to learn more, not just about what we've done on May 17th, but some of the other interesting things that will be coming down the pipe in the months ahead. CNIB in Canada is seeking to really stand out in terms of our efforts as an organization that over the last 100 years had really focused so much of its energies and expertise in the area of rehabilitation for people who are blind or partially sighted. It was an important part of our mission, and something that in Canada we spent the last 4 years working on a solution so that we weren't providing that service under a charitable banner to people who needed rehab. Now that we've worked with governments across our country to ensure that people have access to rehabilitation that's properly funded and supported, we can now turn our sights to, utilizing the support from the community, from donors who at one point were giving us donations so that people could have orientation and mobility training, to now be able to use their support to put more technology in the hands of people, to break down attitudinal barriers, and to do a lot of the things that people who are blind or partially sighted in our country we're really hoping we could aspire to do and to make a change in this country. But that, we were somewhat hand-tied in terms of our the need to continue to raise significant money every year to provide rehab. So we're kind of turned that chapter in our history, and we want to be very progressive and seen as being at the forefront of technology and innovation in Canada. And it's going to be a very interesting journey over the next 4 years to see how much we move the needle in those areas. But it's going to be a fun trip.
Yeah, I mean, and it is a little bit of a challenge. I mean, the technology, given that the technology moves so fast. Yeah.
But Canada is a very innovative country. There's a lot of technology that's happening here, especially in the AI space and in obviously in smartphone development and all kinds of areas. There's a lot of startups here, and we want to, tap into that and better understand how we can support individuals and organizations that have an interest in making our country more accessible and our world more accessible for people, how we can use our expertise 100 years in this field to provide insight to them, to be able to do user testing and other types of support to companies that want to bring products to market that will help people who are blind and partially sighted. And then for us to gradually grow our skills and our ability to be a player in that space and to make a real impact in the lives of people by making sure that they have accessible technology at an affordable price to be able to do the things that they want to do to stay independent.
Len, thanks so much for joining us today. It was a real pleasure, and best of luck moving forward.
Ryan, Steve, and Rob, thank you for having me on. I would love to come back and talk with you guys again, maybe after the launch in September. We'll probably have some more partnerships and things that are going on within CNIB that I'd love to talk with you about.
That sounds great.
Sounds fantastic.
All right, sir.
Okay.
You have a good rest of your day.
You as well. Thanks.
Thanks, Len.
Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
It's interesting the way the organization is changing. The fact that they've moved all that rehab stuff off to another area, and they're focusing specifically on technology now, and getting technology in people's hands. Which is, if they can finagle it, if they can find the funding for it to get it in people's hands, that's awesome.
Yeah, they got their work cut out for them, but that's good. Anything that's
Well, and even just incorporating beacons into their own offices, that's awesome. You walk up to the building, it'll say main entrance directly in front of you. You walk through the doors, in Vancouver, walk straight ahead, elevator on your left, they give you so much more information. It's going to be super helpful to everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent. The use of technology. So do you think, I'm assuming CNIB is using iBeacons.
I don't know.
That's probably my guess. So they probably got like a deep partnership with who manufactures iBeacons. Is that Apple?
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, so they probably got a partnership with Apple there.
I should actually know that. I just wrote the damn article. But you know how it is. You write an article and then everything just falls out of your head. I've got to keep Battlestar Galactica factoids in my head. I don't have room for actual knowledge.
Right.
Yeah, I wonder what their Aira subscription, who their provider is, and if they're actually. Is that,
well, it doesn't sound like any of that's in place yet, though. I mean, that's what kind of surprised me.
Yeah, I got to look at their website and take a look. So.
They've had Aira demos and stuff at different CNIBs that I've noticed on Twitter.
Because you said their pricing's in U.S., so they've got pricing.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if they figured out any of that.
Which is going to be expensive.
Isn't their service in the States done through AT&T?
Probably.
Yes.
So it'll be Rogers here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that. Somebody in Toronto was using it once on Rogers.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. So, if it's, $80 a month US for 60 minutes or whatever, you're looking at $120 or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
For 30 minutes. It's going to be expensive.
Well, the other thing too is, they're up against a free service as well.
Yes, they are. I mean, I didn't want to say anything, but yeah, that's exactly it. And not only that, by September, there could be 3 more.
Yeah.
We're not kidding when we say that the technology is moving fast, and that can be a real challenge to these types of partnerships. BlindSquare could be a flash in the pan. You don't know.
Well, I think a lot of the beacon technology is pretty much at its infancy right now, and it's got a lot of potential for evolution. And the companies that are going to be successful at it are going to be the ones who evolve the technology and do more and innovative things with it. So we'll see.
Well, and especially with the beacon technology, I mean, the AT aspect of that is you got to remember that's a side.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's a drop in the bucket.
That's an afterthought.
Yeah.
Is what really is driving that technology is the marketing side of it. They want, retailers and marketers want the ability to be push notifications. So that's what's really driving that technology forward. So I don't know how I feel about that, but
well, it's got to be integrated into the accessibility solution. It has to.
Yeah.
That the accessibility part of it has to dovetail off of those advertising beacons if it's going to really get out into full functional use.
Yep. But again, I mean, this, it's lucky enough to be able to take advantage of that technology. Again, it comes back to a mainstream technology that's going to really benefit, have real AT benefits. So,
yay.
But still, man, I don't know. But I guess, if you don't want to get push notifications,
turn your notifications off.
Just turn your phone off. Oof, man.
Or it'll be something like opting in. You walk into London Drugs or whatever store, and would you like to sign up for our newsletter, get our emails? No. Same with your beacons. It might prompt you. Do you want to allow notifications from so and so? No.
I'm telling you go to the mall now, and that's the first question out of their mouths. It's like, what's your email address?
Yep.
I'm just like, why? Why do you? I would like to pay for this item. I don't need to give you my email address in order to do.
Are we dating now?
Yeah. Why? But seriously, before anything else, it's just, what's your email address? Do you have an account with us? No. I just want to buy this thing. And I don't want you. The funniest part is I went to the mall once and they asked for my phone number, and I went to give them a dummy phone number and accidentally gave them my real phone number. And I kid you, it was American Eagle. And I kid you not, I was 35 feet away from the store, and I got a push notification, or I got a text message from American Eagle thanking me for my purchase and reminding me that if I took the survey, on the bottom of the receipt, I could win $20 t-shirt or something.
Wow.
But still, it's...
So you filled out the survey and didn't win your $20 t-shirt?
No, I didn't even do that. I just blocked the number.
Yep.
Okay, boys. I think that's it. Let's get out of here. Hey, Ryan.
Rob.
Where can people find us?
Today, they can find us in the Guitar Dungeon or at atbanter.com.
They can also drop us a line if they so desire. atbanterpodcast@gmail.com.
Huh. Is that so?
It is so.
Really?
Now you had me second guessing myself there for a second. I was like, wait, did I get that right? Did I just give out my personal email without even thinking about it?
Well, in case you did get that wrong, people could also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Yes, they can. And where can people find Canadian assistive technology?
Well, we abbreviate that stuff, so they can find us at www.canastech.com. Snicker as you will.
And where can people find Mr. Rick Chant in case something that they have, assistive technology related, has broken and they need it fixed?
Gads almighty. Well, you should get that stuff to Rick at Chaos Technical Services. He can be found at www.chaostechnicalservices.com. That's chaos, CHAOS.
Oh, wait, were you done? No.
Yeah, I was.
I said, really?
No,
Yeah.
he just said that's at www.chaos.
Yeah, that's right.
Did I?
You did. You literally spelled half of it.
Well, no, I was.
And then the beep.
I think people know how to spell technical services.
Well, then why did you start to spell it?
It's the chaos part people have trouble with.
Really?
So it's www.chaostechnicalservices.com, and chaos is spelled CHAOS. There you go.
There you go.
Good.
Good job.
You guys.
If you have trouble spelling it, just email in by atbanterpodcast@gmail.com and we'll help you spell it. Hey, Ryan.
Yes, sir.
You want to plug your record again?
You get to edit whatever you want out of it. So
Go ahead.
No.
WhiteCaneRecords.com.
That's right.
That's right.
Check it out.
Ryan's got music.
Yep. More on the way.
There you go. All right. Well, that is going to about do it for us this week. Thanks, everybody, for listening in. We will see you all next week.
This podcast has been brought to you by Canadian Assistive Technology, providing low vision and blindness solutions across Canada. Find us online at www.canastech.com. That's CANASSTECH.com. Or call us toll free at 1-844-795-8324. For all your assistive technology servicing needs, call Chaos Technical Services at 778-847-6840 or find them online at chaostechnicalservices.com. Music provided by bensound.com.
Whoa, look at that. Master of the one take.